Hello, everyone, and welcome to India Foundation for the Arts Project Showcase Online. We are delighted to bring a very special project to you today. But to begin with, I'll give you a little bit of history as to what this is for those who are joining us for the first time. So as some of you know, India Foundation for the Arts is an organization that's nationwide. We support and implement arts and culture projects across the country in various languages, disciplines, under the different project programs that we have: arts research, arts practice, arts education, Project 560, different kinds of areas that artists and scholars write to us about, and then we make these projects happen. And the outcome of these projects as books, films, archival material, seminar, productions, performances are out there in the domain for people to see, enjoy, enrich themselves. Now, other than making these projects happen, we also try our best to share as much as possible the work that our grantees and scholars do with larger audiences like yourselves. And before March 2020, we would organize what we call grantee showcase or project showcases across other cities, travel to these cities, tie up with local partners who are cultural institutes there, and have a little chai, coffee, gupshup with you as our artists talk about their projects. But of course, after March 2020, we've had to, like so many of us, move these conversations, these engagements online on spaces like these. So thank you so much for joining us. Today, there is, as I said, a very special project that we're going to share. But before I hand this over to Sumana, a couple of housekeeping rules and a couple of requests that have come from our artists today. So to get the best experience today, our artists have requested that you plug into your headsets. You keep the Zoom screen to the maximum possible on your devices, on whatever device you're watching this, whether you're watching this on Zoom or you're watching this on Facebook. So keep the video at its maximum. And in case you have any questions, you can put that in the Q&A box that we have here in Zoom if you've joined us through Zoom, or you can post them as comments below the Facebook live stream that you're watching us on. If you have any comments, if you have any suggestions, if you have any memories related or associated to the project that you'll hear about, then you can put that in the chat box. And we will continuously keep sharing little resources, little details about this on our chat boxes as well. So keep an eye out for that. And thank you once again for joining us today. I will now request my colleague Sumana to tell you a little more about the excitement we have for you. Sumana.
Thank you, Arundhati. Namaskara and a very good evening to all our audience here. I'll begin with sharing a little bit about what Project 560 is all about. It's an IFA initiative that's exclusively for Bangalore. It takes its name from the first 3 digits of Bangalore's PIN code, and Project 560 proposes to encourage artists, scholars, and citizens of Bangalore to engage creatively and critically with the city. And in doing so, it aims to provide a kaleidoscopic experience of what this city is, and also enable us to reimagine the city and our relationships with the city in new ways. Project 560 has been supporting projects, making grants and implementing projects under 3 categories, namely arts projects, research and practice, curated artistic engagements, and neighborhood engagements. The project that we are presenting today was supported under the category arts projects, research and practice. So this is a category where artists, practitioners, and researchers and scholars creatively engage with the city's pasts, presents, and futures through a critical inquiry. We have today the artists with us, Mahesh S. and Anuj Malhotra, who has been his collaborator. Mahesh is a writer and a filmmaker. He's based in Bangalore. He has a background in consumer research and in advertising, and he has been working towards creating a body of work that is centered on urban folklore. Along with him, we also have his collaborator, Anuj Malhotra, who is a filmmaker, a critic, and a cultural activist based in Delhi. He has worked on this project as the editor and the screenplay writer for the film Tales from Building Number 37, excerpts from which you will see today. In 2019, Mahesh received a grant for a photography-based exploration of the history, architecture, and cultural memory of Building Number 37 in Bangalore, delving into the narratives of nostalgia, dismay, hope, and indifference. This project was an investigation into the conception of the building, the impact that it had on the city, and an imagination of its possible futures. With that, I'd like to hand this over to Mahesh and Anuj. Mahesh, over to you.
Thank you, Sumana. And thank you everybody for taking out time to attend this project showcase. So, and I think I want to sort of like begin this project by saying we started this project 2 years back, and with the support of IFA, we were able to sort of focus our efforts towards one particular site to begin with, and somehow that sort of branched out into other things, and we were able to produce 2 deliverables from it. One, an experimental film, which is 39 minutes in length, and the other being a photo book as well. So to begin with, I kind of want to sort of share the trailer for the film. The film, as you know, is based on an old and an iconic building in Bangalore. But having said it, this is a building that some of you may be familiar with. At the same time, what happens is while the exploration begins with one building, we sort of branch out into the larger city of Bangalore as well. So without revealing further, I want to sort of showcase the trailer to you all.
ಹೀಗೆ ಒಂದು 10 ವರ್ಷದ ಹಿಂದೆ ಇದೇ ಥರ ಒಬ್ಬ ಫೋಟೋಗ್ರಾಫರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಫೋಟೋ ತೆಗಿಯಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದು 22ನೇ ಅಂತಸ್ತಿಂದ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಬಿದ್ದು ಸತ್ತೋಗಿದ್ದ. ಅವನು ಸತ್ತೋಗಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅವನ ಆತ್ಮ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಬೇತಾಳಂತರ ಸುತ್ತಾಡ್ತಿತ್ತು. ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಊರು ಸುತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದು ರಾತ್ರಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಬಂದು ಓಡಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಿತ್ತು. ಅವನು ಸತ್ತಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅವನ ಹಳೆ ಚಟಗಳು ಇನ್ನೂ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವನು ಬದುಕಿದ್ದಾಗ ದಿನ ಬೆಳಗಾದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು, ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಬಟನ್ ಒತ್ತಿ ಫೋಟೋ ತೆಗೀದೆ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಇರೋಕ್ಕಾಗ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವನ ಆತ್ಮ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾದೊಳಗೆ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡು ಫೋಟೋ ತೆಗೀತಿತ್ತು. ಮೊದಲು ಆ ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗು ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ತಲೆ ಕೆಡಿಸ್ಕೊತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಅದು ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ಗಟ್ಟಿಯಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಆದರೆ ಕೆಲವು ವರ್ಷಗಳ ನಂತರ ಅದ್ರ ಗೋಡೆಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬ ಗಲೀಜಾಗಿ ಕಲ್ಲುಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಎದ್ದು ಕಾಣ್ತಿತ್ತು. ಇದರಿಂದ ಆ ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ತುಂಬ ವಯಸ್ಸಾಗಿರೋ ರೀತಿ ಕಾಣ್ತಿತ್ತು ಅಂದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಕೆಟ್ಟದಾಗ ಫೋಟೋದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ಆ ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಫೋಟೋಗಳನ್ನು ತೆಗಿಬೇಡ ಅಂತ ತುಂಬ ಸಲ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ಬಳಿ ಬೇಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಿತ್ತು. ಆದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಆ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ತಲೆ ಕೆಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ದೆ ಫೋಟೋ ತೆಗಿತಾನೆ ಇರ್ತಿತ್ತು.
Yeah, so that was the trailer from the film. Before now, what I want to start off with is sort of the origin story, so to say, for the project. Now, almost 2 years back, when I first moved to Bangalore from Delhi, I was actually very excited to be a part of the city. It sort of being a metropolitan city, and also in some sense being closer to my hometown in Tamil Nadu. But after having spent a year or so, what I felt was a bit of a strange alienation in the city that I couldn't sort of come to terms with. So in a way, to sort of feel a little less alone, I started roaming around the city with a camera, and I began taking pictures of whatever came my way. So on one such Sunday evening, I came across a tall building that was shaped like a biscuit, right? And I walked into it. And that building is building number 37. So when I sort of look back at it, almost 2 to 3 years from now, when I first walked into the building, there was a very strange sensation of a particular smell that sort of stayed with me from the building. At the same time, there was an atmosphere of decay that was very much prevalent in the space, right? And I felt like even though this building was there pretty much in the heart of the city, there was a lot of quietness within it. It almost seemed like a sanctuary where one could meditate, provided one could get over the strange smell of talcum powder and in some corner maybe a urine on the walls, right? So in that sort of a strange sense where I found out, I almost felt like I had discovered an abandoned structure in the heart of the city. And what happened was this sort of discovery propelled me to sort of go back to this building over and over again. To me, initially, my initial reaction was that this is a monument of decay. This is dedicated to decay, and where I could sort of go there and just contemplate how the walls are being decayed, the paint sort of, tearing away from the walls, the soot that you can see on the ceilings and so on. So, and I also brought my friends along to see this building. And in that sort of a cycle, I kept going back to this building over and over again. But at the same time, what happened was I wanted to deepen my understanding with this building. And here, in this sort of here, what I wanted to go about was to I wanted to sort of engage with the building, and I began talking to some of the people who worked out of the place, right? To understand what kind of history that this building once had, the story of the shopkeepers and their lives as well. So in that sense, that allowed me to understand what are the reality that existed in the building. Initially, many shopkeepers were reluctant to talk about the building, but over time, some of them, sort of embraced me, and they began sharing their own personal stories, their records, their photographs, and their the archival documents that they had when they began to sort of, occupy this building. I want to share with you a particular excerpt from the past. This document is something that I happened to, it was given to me by a shopkeeper who was a part of the building. And I want to read an excerpt from it. As the city grows and develops, its image changes, and so do its needs. The corporation of the city of Bangalore has been sensitive to these changing and growing needs. They have therefore designed and developed, with the imagination and skill of their architects, a magnificent skyscraper rising to a height of 325 feet above ground level. This is the first undertaking of its kind in South India to be undertaken by any corporation, and will certainly benefit a lot of people in a lot of ways. So right from the outset, it can be understood that the city corporation had a certain imagination for Bangalore, almost sort of taking away from Jawaharlal Nehru's sort of like prophetic vision of to say Bangalore will be the city of the future. And therefore a skyscraper or a tall building, in some sense, being very much part of that universe. And I understood that this building has a very hallowed history, but I was also eager to know what kind of memories did this building sort of leave upon the people, right? Is it something that people continue to remember this, or who remembers this building? Who are the people who have forgotten about it? And to sort of know this, I sort of began my research by talking to a variety of people. Some people who've been in the city for quite some time, others whose ties to the city are just beginning. And by talking to them, I was able to extract a lot of memories and anecdotes about the place. And what I understood was some of which were some of which people claim to be real, some of which were obviously half forgotten, and some they obviously improvised on the spot, like how memory normally unfolds. So here I wanted to sort of talk to you, share with you a few anecdotes that I heard about the building, which continue to remain with me. So one person said, I thought if King Kong ever came to Bangalore, would this be the building it would climb? And another person had, sort of reminisced about this building from the point of view of their childhood. After school, we would run up to the top and play hide and seek. We also used to fly paper rockets from there. But not all comments were actually on the sweeter side. Some of them also felt that this building had a certain ominous side to it. Little did we know this building was a sign of bad things to come in the city. And some people also spoke about the idea. Somebody said a very poignant thing to say, only eagles will know the number of people who may have jumped from this building and so on. So here I could sort of understand this building as one saw it, but also for some people it also existed as a playground between the corridors. For others, it was the place where they went for their first date, and therefore I could get a sense that this building had a lot of memories and nostalgia, but I was not able to connect with it beyond a point. It was useful for me to understand this building from that point of view, but I felt like locating this building within the lens of nostalgia and heritage would in a way sort of pigeonhole it, because then I would not be able to see the building for what it was. And at the same time, since I've sort of come to the city, just 3 years back, I did not share such a nostalgic feeling with this building. So I was more interested in what had happened to its current state, and I wanted to sort of explore that in some sense. So here, the idea was that I sort of began working the idea of a film. How would it be to shoot a film inside this building? But what I actually noticed was the more I was trying to engage with the building, there was obviously some bit of reluctance on behalf of the people who are working there, right? And I understood that that they may not be completely comfortable sharing their views on the building. And at the same time, there is always a constant presence of CCTV cameras and security guards. So then the challenge became, how do you sort of shoot a film inside a building that is not very accessible? It is accessible because it is a public building, but since you don't actually belong to that particular space, or you don't work there, how do you sort of engage with that space became my challenge, right? And what I understood was initially I had a vision of how to make this film, but over time I understood that the building has a way, the building dictates how I would shoot my process. So in that sense, I didn't want to disturb anybody in the building. So we disbanded the idea of shooting the film with a crew. And what we did was mostly I shot the film. Sometimes a friend would come and help me over, a small pocket camera and a small sound recorder. And that's all the equipment that we used to shoot whatever we could, be it photographs or videos, of the building. So here, but at this time, also what I felt was there was a certain sense of fear and paranoia that was actually creeping in me. Maybe because there was the presence of ghosts in the building, which I thought were there, or it could be the CCTV cameras and so on. So there was this sort of this fear, both real and imagined, that began to sort of enter my process, right? And I just sort of felt like, okay, and this sort of this fear became more and more increasing in intensity as I began to engage with this building. And what I want to play this clip out for you from this film, which will sort of slightly outline this feeling of what it was to be in the building. The clip is called "The Mysterious Caller."
Is that Mahesh? Mahesh, yes?
Yeah, this is Mahesh here.
See, I'm from the building. I've seen you sometimes in the building clicking photos and you were asking questions to the fan also.
Sir,
I got your card.
Are you calling from the public building, sir? Are you in?
Yes.
Sir, may I know who gave you my number? I couldn't hear you.
So I'm from the building. I've seen you many times in the building and you were asking questions to the fan also. I got your visiting card from somebody. Listen, do you know somebody in the media?
Sir,
What are you trying to do?
Sir, I conduct interviews of people, so I'm just documenting the history of the place. Because the buildings, actually it's an old building, right? So I talk to people there and I conduct interviews. So I can put it up as a public exhibition. It's a photo exhibition.
Interesting. But if I give you something, will you be able to take the presentation to the media? See, I've been working in the building for last 8 years.
Okay.
Before that, I worked in the crafts area. They're all nearby places. I've seen a lot of things happen. But there is, like, I also have a family. Important thing is, if I tell you something, then my names would not come.
Sir, I'm not able to follow you. Like, I mean, you're asking me if I can if I can present what you give to the media.
Yes.
I can try. I don't know directly anybody in the media, but sir,
You have friends and colleagues.
Sir, I have friends who may know somebody, but can I actually meet you for an interview, sir? Because all of this is a little out of the blue for me.
Not right now. Not right now. But let me get something first. Then.
Sir, I'm just. Can you help me understand this? When you say you have some information, like is there anything in particular?
Nothing right now, but it's what I will know. Don't worry, just be careful when you're taking photos because there are so many people and different ways of thinking about things. So you don't want to be in a position where it's uncomfortable.
Meaning,
You take care, I will call you.
can I call you back on this number?
No, don't call on this number, I will call you.
So here, I think while I was speaking about the fear and paranoia that somehow sort of overwhelmed me in some sense, what I understood was this particular feeling that I had was something that was not there particularly only within this building. It was something that I could feel in other buildings as well, or in other places as well, or maybe to some degree in the larger city as well. I began talking to architects and urban planners about it, and what I sort of felt was that this feeling of that somebody is always watching over you, or somebody might actually question what are you doing in this particular place. It was something that was a feeling that I mean it's sort of a malaise that is actually spread throughout the city, and what actually helped me do here was that it actually freed me from sort of locating my project only within this building, but allowed me to sort of expand my scope and shoot in other buildings as well. Right, and therefore it gave me a sense of agency where instead of somebody being a distant spectator, sort of seeing what happens in a building, I assumed the role of an active manipulator, sort of constructing my own narratives as I saw in the building. So here, so for instance, one of the techniques that we used was there was a place inside the building, or actually in another building, I would say, where somebody had left a heart-shaped mark on the window. And this allowed me to imagine maybe was this a meeting place for lovers once. And similar speculations that I could sort of arrive upon. At the same time, I also moved from the so-called documentary facts of the building and wanted to speculate more on the very minute and mundane details of the building. I once found like a bowl of rice that was left on the staircase, and the whole idea was who are the people who are leaving rice for the cats? Or there's a very peculiar spider web that I found a few years back, and just to sort of sit with the spider web and just to see how long will the spider web last before somebody sort of tramples upon it and so on. So these speculations, basically whatever was left over in the building, the remnants of the building, became my source of investigation. At the same time, I also began casting actors. Some people who were from the building, who wanted to act in it, others who were not from the building, and so on. And some people who were from the building and they just played the role of non-actors. And so we could sort of invite all of these people to take part in this process and sort of see what kind of a narrative might emerge from all of this. Similarly, like when you look at the building, there are several gashes that are sort of that are left on the surface of the building. Right? Some of these are very violent because they are done with a knife or a blade. So to understand what may have been the thought process, or was it out of boredom, was it out of some frustration, or was it was it an artist using the building as a different medium? Right. So what do these gashes on the wall tell me? Also became another fountain of space for me to explore. And at the same time, while people had shared their memories about the building, I also wanted to explore what kind of newer memories and fantasies could one sort of could emerge out of this. There was a particular story of somebody said that I remember I once wrote a story where the building sort of shot up as a spaceship, and it joined an alien sort of a seafaring race, and so on. So to create like not just like rely on older memories, but to also create like newer memories and to sort of see what might come out of it became the process for me. So I want to sort of play this other clip, which in some sense actually moves from the building number 37, but it explores this feeling which I was describing you from another place as well. And some of the tendencies and techniques that we have used can be seen in the clip that I would like to show you. This particular excerpt is called "The Building Has a Nightmare." Yeah, so I now want to sort of hand over this conversation to my friend and collaborator Anuj, who's worked on the film in the capacity of a editor and a screenwriter.
Thank you, Mahesh. I was just looking at the images after a long while, and they always astound me really in terms of just the diversity of sensations that they can yield to for anyone. And I think it's sort of very similar to the first primal experience that I had when I looked at these images for the first time. And obviously the premise of the project and also the premise of the grant that Mahesh received was that he wanted to prepare like a historical documentation of what is an iconic or historical monument. But when you look at the images and when you look at the footage also really that we've all been taking a look at, you really perceive this sensorial impact, the sensorial intensity of the images or of the sensorial intensity that's really been enacted upon his body and his self by this place, by this building, really. And it was really I mean, the construction of the film was really situated from within this strange crisis, this point of crisis that we'd arrived at, which is that it is a film that actually pretends to be a historical document, an informative document, but whose sensorial impact, whose somatic impact on the body of the filmmaker is so immense, and the sensorial implications of this experience that he's having within the building is so intense, really. And that I think also started for us the opportunity to explore these questions from within the documentary form in terms of the differences that we could explore between a reality or verifiable reality as it exists for the filmmaker uh, and perceived reality as the filmmaker's own sensory acumen perceives for him in terms of the place that he occupies and he inhabits. And it's really the experience of the outsider in the city where he's within a space but also removed from it. There's a level of removal. So he's a perpetual outsider who's inside of a space, but the space, much like the largest city, refuses to offer it to himself completely or in its most accurate, most fully formed version. And therefore, this outsider, in order to actually render a depiction of the space, needs to imagine it anew, needs to imagine it almost as a speculative object that Mahesh also discussed. And so this allowed us the opportunity to begin our explorations and engagements with the conventional wisdoms of the documentary form in terms of reconstructed scenes, in terms of actually showing reconstructions of the dreams or the myths or the ideas or the memories that people had offered to Mahesh as records. Also, for instance, the example that he demonstrated of actors playing certain characters from within the building to actually reverse or forward historical linear time within the film. And all of these explorations of inducing, for instance, fiction or imaginary invented narratives within the larger story, the chamber of the building. So all of these formal explorations that would normally not exist within the framework of a documentary. But I suppose the whole notion of this outsider who's exploring a space and is therefore faced with a crisis of inhabiting a space um, that does not really present itself to him as it would to say someone who works within this building actually allowed us the opportunity to explore with the documentary form. And that also sort of yielded my dual contributions as an editor and a screenwriter, where as an editor I was basically exploring, because like Mahesh mentioned, the nature of his experiences within the building was really manifold, very multitudinal in the series of encounters and individuals or groups of people that he encountered while on his travels to the building. And all of these episodes were in a way scattered across time, across his visits to the building. And all of them had different temporal registers, different tempos, different rhythms. So we were essentially creating not as much a film, and this was something that we were very conscious of, but a playlist of experiences, a playlist of intensities, a playlist of rhythms. And as a screenwriter, to sort of contain these larger episodes within a macroscopic structure, a macro structure, a larger structure, a framework which actually revealed and made explicit this very episodic, intermittent, fragmentary nature of his visits to the building, is something that we really wanted to, again, by design, very consciously, very knowingly, make very visible, as opposed to adhering to the seamless flow of knowledge or of how information is organized within a traditional documentary film. So we really wanted to, like the Japanese act of kintsugi, almost widen the gaps and really put them on display, put them on exhibition, widen those cracks, and really show them as almost the intrinsic quality of Mahesh's experiences within the film. So that's really where I came in as a collaborator, and hopefully helped him identify those tendencies, resident really very well within the images that he'd shot and within the footage that he'd gathered and collected from within his experiences. So I think the clip that we are going to show is also really an example of a formal experiment that we conducted, which shows this gap between an individual whose body, who's somatically really present in front of you, but who you somehow, as a perpetual outsider, can still not access, whose reality you still cannot reach. So there is a level of intimacy, but a level removed. And this is an encounter that Mahesh had with a character called David. And I'm very consciously using the word character because even I don't really know if this person is real or not. But within the film, he's presented as a tailor. So this is the scene that I think we're going to show you now.
Ninth floor. Nineteenth floor.
Yeah, with that clip, we want to sort of conclude the portion on the film, and now want to sort of talk with you about the book that we have also built on this building. So the starting point for this book essentially was that, in all our homes, generally we have there is a storeroom or an attic. And in the storeroom or the attic, things that are sort of discarded or basically things that have no use are put away. And oftentimes, kids tend to go to these storerooms or these attics, and they spend a lot of time, sort of like marching through the junk and discovering something new there. So for kids or for somebody, while the storeroom is a place of junk, it could also be a magical place. It could be a place of enchantment. So here, what we wanted to explore was what kind of books can you find if the city had an attic, right? So let's say if there was the story of the building that's written away, and it's sort of tucked away in some corner of a government building, or maybe inside one of its vast storerooms. So, and maybe one sort of a unsuspecting government employee goes there to retrieve a document, and he's sifting through records and piles of like record books and ledgers and so on. And he sort of comes across a book. This book looks very much like any other ledger that one might find in such a place. And then he happens to open it, and then he discovers that this book has the story of the building itself written inside it. So that became the starting point for us to sort of create a physical artifact that would house the tales of the building, something that can be, it's very portable, it can be hidden away, and it can be passed from one to another. So I want to show you some of the images of the book. We have made 15 copies of it. And since it's like all of the copies are handmade, and we want to sort of hand it over to people one at a time, so they can take their time with it and give it back to us after they have sort of spent their time with this. So here, this is how the book looks from the outside. The book is inspired by the structure of the building and the aesthetics of bureaucracy, like like old ledgers and record notebooks. Likewise, here in the book as well, what we notice is the book has two parts to it. In the beginning, it's about the story of a photographer who discovers this building, and there are diary entries and there are photographs and the numerous times that that person may have come across this building, which are documented. And over time, also the book allows for memories about the building to be housed, certain archival extracts and photographs. But the book has a second part to it where the book in a way explores an unrealized potential. Because the story is then about a photographer who wants to make a film on the building, but this dream does not materialize. To me, in some sense, building number 37 has been that unfulfilled potential to some degree. And I wanted to explore that idea through the construct of a film for which all the preparations have been made, but somehow the film never gets made. So the film then begins to house, the book then begins to house a film docket, which is like a preparatory material to make a film in the form of storyboards, in the form of scripts, in the form of references for cinematographers, in the form of acting references, casting references, budgets and costing sheets. And at the same time, we also wanted to touch upon the more material and the sensorial nature of the building, or to also speculate that this building too, like many others, may one day return to the dust. So to sort of evoke that, we used dust and concrete as a part of the book itself to sort of bring the building and to a cyclical closure in some sense. Right. The book has been designed by my friend Anisha Thampi and hand-bound by Annavi Dhawan. Illustrations are by Avani and Dwarka, and the script for which has been, there's also a script which is housed inside the book that's been written by Divakar. I think this almost sort of concludes both the film and the book for us. From the next step for us is to figure out what are the possible places that might be interested in exhibiting this work, the film and the book to sort of accompany it. And if you do happen to come across places, or if you could share with us places where we could exhibit this work, that would be wonderful for us. I just want to sort of leave you with the closing image of another construction going on, as is the case with Bangalore and wherever we see now. Sumana, over to you.
Thanks so much, Mahesh and Anuj. This was really fascinating. You know, in fact, I go back 2 years. I think it was 2019 February. I can't remember exactly, but the first time you came to office, Mahesh, and you mentioned that you were new to this city, and there was so much sort of tentativeness about about who you are in this city and what is your relationship with this city. And now 2 years later, I'm seeing this project here. Of course, I've seen the material that you've sent, but, you know, watching you, both of you here, share your experiences, share what has come out of this project is fascinating for me personally, as an IFA person, and of course, as somebody who has formed my own relationships with the city as well. So I wanted to know, Mahesh, how has, you know, you came to this city, and maybe one of your first sort of anchors in the city happened to be this building in some way. So how has this building, and then the way in which you sort of moved on to the other buildings in the city, how have all these shaped your relationship with this ever-changing city? Because that was the first conversation we started with, about building a relationship with the city. And you were saying that, you know, you just started walking the streets of Bangalore, and then this building happened to come up. So I wanted to know how this has shaped your relationship with the city.
I mean, like the way it is right now, or how it's changed?
No, I mean, so you are now you have been a Bangalore person for now 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
And there's a certain way in which we all form relationships with the city, whatever they are.
Yeah.
So if this building and then the way the other buildings became part of this experience for you, in what ways have you formed this relationship with the city? You know, as people who have either lived here for a long time or who have come from the outside, we have our own ways of developing these relations with the city. So I was curious to know what the experience has been for you.
I think to some degree, maybe my initial engagement has been that of almost like that of resistance, to say, okay, here is a city and I am now a part of it, but am I being able to engage with it? There is a certain level of anxiety and fear that creeps in. I would not say that's completely gone away, but I can see it sort of mellowed down to some degree, because over time what happens is there is the equation of time that plays out, and through that now obviously I can go back to the building. I know a few people there, and at the same time I've also made more friendships in the city, and all of those actually make you feel a little bit more rooted in some sense. The thing of being an outsider is something that I feel is not only pertinent to Bangalore, because I have also been in Delhi and I also felt that over there as well. So, and maybe the concern being that if I mean, so I think maybe the larger concern is that while my personal sort of relationships have actually helped me sustain my stay in the city, I'm curious to see how does the city help, you know, an individual as well. The reason I say that is that we increasingly see growing surveillance and so on. That the question of what should one do, and there's sort of increasingly becoming confined. So, you know, how does one sort of take that into account is something that I'm sort of like grappling with. At the same time, there are obviously like the perks and the benefits of being in a big city that obviously one takes advantage of. So in some sense, I think to maybe in a concise way, I feel it's the anxiety has sort of mellowed down, and it's being sustained by personal relationships, so to say.
Sure. There's one question that we have from Shashidhar Kote. He's asking, what was the building before it was built?
I think there was a library of sorts before it was built. I think I've seen a photograph earlier, but the question is, which building are they referring to? Is it building number 37, or because there is also the other buildings as well? And since we refer to as building number 37 because for me it's a composite building. It's a building in which there are 5-6 buildings inside it. So if one of the buildings, I suppose, had a library before it was built, I suppose.
Okay. Are there more questions? Could we have audience questions, please? Okay.
Sumana, if I may.
Yes. Yeah, please.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Anuj and Mahesh, for your presentation. It's been quite a fascinating project for IFA also. As you know, we've been looking at a few projects on buildings. And Sumana, if you remember the Mohan building, yes. My name is Mohan was another project. I was thinking of that also and how the building came alive there as well. And maybe we should connect Mahesh and Anuj to that project, and some conversation around that would be fun. But in this, I was thinking, Mahesh, what were the people who are still there, who may have either establishments or relationships with this building? How did they receive you? Because our experience with the Mohan building, which is in Chickpet, was that it's a very mixed reaction to old buildings, because there is a sense of possession, there's a fear of heritage dwellers coming and making it into a shrine, which actually affects livelihood of people who may use the building for commerce or something. On the other hand, people who want to preserve a sense of history and heritage want to preserve these buildings as spaces of knowledge and to kind of understanding the city better, etc. So there's a very mixed reaction, and there's a lot of conflict of, I find at least, class and who we are and what backgrounds we come from and our relationship to the city. Can we say anybody, any artist or scholar taking an interest in our city? So you must have had some varied kind of responses, right? I mean, I'm very curious to know that.
I think in sort of one observation that we've noticed is when we show the film, especially to somebody who's been in Bangalore for quite some time, they don't necessarily tend to sort of like the film, or they don't agree with it because we don't explore nostalgia and heritage beyond the point. So that is something that I think a lot of Bangaloreans enjoy. I mean, I also enjoy it, but beyond it, maybe that connection doesn't exist. But for people who are not from the city, or people who are sort of, just familiarizing or deepening their ties with the city, then they're able to sort of see this sort of a work and come up with their own, interpretations that is not locked to this one particular structure that we are referring to. Having said it, and that's one aspect of it. In terms of the people who are there and them welcoming. So what happened was that obviously some people were reluctant to talk about it, because the idea was that we have spoken all that there is to say about it, and maybe they didn't want to sort of revisit maybe a slightly painful past. So they didn't want to do that. Some people, found a lot of happiness in sort of recollecting their stories as well. For others, it was a sort of a transaction in some sense. I mean, it was a bit of both. They found in me maybe as a person who they could sort of talk about this place and about their lives. But also at the same time, the people in the building who work there are also engaging in different ways. Like, for instance, I know of a particular store there who is trying very hard to sort of set up a social media account and trying to sell, stuff online. So though that sort of a different kind of an engagement happens. And at the same time, the younger people who work there have spent a lot of time shooting like TikTok videos and so on. So, so I mean, and so on. So therefore, that building lends itself to these sort of non-uses, if I were to say. I mean, this is not what it was meant for, but it does allow for these experiences to happen in a very undefined manner.
Mm.
Right.
Thanks, Mahesh.
Thank you.
We have a question here from Atika Farid. The question is, what narrative a documentary would have had if a similar building was situated in Delhi, considering that you used to live there?
I guess I have to answer this in a hypothetical scenario, but since I come from Coimbatore, maybe there's a building from Coimbatore called Lakshmi Complex. That's a building that I used to go there as a child. So I suppose maybe I might have a slightly more affectionate view of the place. But what happens is, of late, I think maybe not so much. I mean, it's the idea is that it could have been seen through the sense of nostalgia and heritage, but now you also see what exactly is the place doing, what is the present reality, what real estate does it occupy, who are the kind of people who get to live there, and that also opens up for another understanding. So I guess maybe it will possibly take in the context of whichever that building is. So I'm not sure if I'm able to fully answer this question, and also just speculate upon it. But only thing is that even if I had lived there, maybe my sense of my role as an artist would also be to understand what is the present reality of the building, and to maybe to see how I could relate to it, or how that could be critically analyzed.
Right.
I have one more question for Mahesh or Anuj. May I ask, Sumana?
Yeah, please.
So the other question is, I was thinking that in terms of the future of buildings, again, it's a very conflict-ridden zone, because at one end you have development and the whole quest for development and what it should become, that space, whether that building has still any use, or should it be raised down and something new created there. On the other hand, you have the repurposing, people who believe in repurposing old buildings and want to keep it. And then you have, again, people from heritage saying that no, they have to be preserved as a museum or a space of memory, history, etc. And again, it comes in conflict. I was just wondering, as artists, both of you have worked on this project as artists, what do you think the role of artists could be in determining a sort of city's future, especially buildings which are in cities like Bangalore, which at one end is developing at a very rapid pace, and where we are constantly seeming to lose out on our past. But on the other hand, there is every day you see these buildings just disappearing, whether they're private or public, and changing the landscape of the city itself and the character of the city. What do you think role of artists could be in this? Is there a role, or and if there is one, because right now nobody is asking artists, right? I mean, businessmen are talking to politicians and mostly city planners, and that's where some decisions are being taken. What do you think artists could say, do, or imagine?
Do you want to begin with this, and then I'll collect my thoughts?
Just a day or two ago, we were doing a presentation. We were talking about how architectural metaphors actually inform a lot of our archival projects, and by that I meant the difference that a lot of architectural plans have in terms of built space and open volumes that surround them. And we were talking about this specifically in the context of the Central Vista redevelopment project that's taking place now in Delhi. And you mentioning how a lot of the artists are not really included in the discussion, but a lot of the architectural groups, and I consider architects to be some of the greatest artists of 20th century, have actually mounted an active dissent to how the Central Vista redevelopment project has been tendered and then been assigned to an architectural firm in Gujarat without really due scrutiny. And their argument really is in intangible, in support of the intangible, like you're mentioning, which is that all of the built space, which is the Rashtrapati Bhavan and the Parliament building, obviously have their colonial ramifications and really were transplanted from European cities, architectural topography right into the heart of Delhi. And there is therefore a need to reconsider what these buildings mean and symbolize for us. But in the 7 decades since the independence, the spaces around them, the open volume around them, was really reappropriated by the public of the city to manifest various micro transactions and flea markets and picnics and boat rides and spots where people could gather and manufacture collective culture. So I feel the role of the artist is really in trying to situate their practice in this liminal space between what is the material, the built buildings, and the open volume of the intangible culture that's generated on a day-to-day basis by the citizens and by the population there. And I feel this is really a question that's obviously not endemic only to Bangalore, but obviously the rest of the city and the rest of the country as well as to the world, which is how do we sustain this ongoing balance between a preservation of built realities, of canonical forms, of really established and consolidated buildings, but also the immaterial and the intangible cultural heritage that a lot of that they sort of generated in their vicinity. And I think the primary role that an artist can play is really to acknowledge the existence of this very tender balance between the material and the immaterial, the somatic and the rational, and the formal and the formless, and the scientific and the sensory, which again, is just a form that we also as with this film are trying to explore, but also with the archives. And I think that's really where the artist can locate themselves in trying to point people to the story of the invisible, to the story of the ghosts and the specters that all of us are now disregarding in our quest for this hypothetical and mythical development and progress in all of our cities, but also in our small towns and villages, really.
Thanks so much, Anuj, for saying it so beautifully, so eloquently. Mahesh is...
We have, okay, sorry. Mahesh, go on.
In case he has anything to add.
Yeah, in case you had something.
Maybe very sort of short, because when we sort of talk about this building and sort of show it to architects or to people who are interested in heritage, then they have a certain view of it. If you show it to an architect, and they speculate how this building could be put to better use, right, and so on. But there is a certain degree, buildings either being seen for heritage or being seen for how they could be put to certain use also has a very utilitarian connotation to it, right? So, so we just want, I think maybe as artists, I'm not sure if it's a heritage or, is it go for development, but I just wanted to just understand how we got here and how that experience could be made intensified to just for us to speculate, and maybe be it an architect or somebody who wants to be a building developer, to just sort of share this experience of intensity to understand how we got here, and then take their decisions accordingly, whatever be the case. And then that could be one role as an artist. And then maybe there could be a more active role as a social as an artist or activist as well. That one could assume later on.
Thanks, Mahesh. Yeah, Sumana, you were saying.
Mahesh, we have a question here from, this is Aditya Nigam, who is asking us on Facebook. Did the mysterious scholar ever get back? What was his concern?
He didn't get back. He didn't get back, and when I tried calling him, the number was not, was not functional anymore. So that, like most of the other things, it sort of began and it seemed to go somewhere and then it stopped. That's basically like the film the whole film actually.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's Yesho who is asking, how does one get to spend time with the book and the film?
Yeah, is the film going to be public, or are we going to, like, is the general audience going to see it at some point?
We would right now actually very much like to show this in physical venues to begin with, and then after some time we will house it online. But right now the idea is to sort of show it in physical spaces and to see what kind of discussion it generates and to be a part of that. If obviously before I'm guessing before it is sort of put up in a physical venue, people would like to see the place, to see the film and the book. So maybe they can just drop us a message on Instagram or Gmail, and we can share the film with them. It's uploaded on a private link for now, and maybe the first idea is to put it up in physical spaces and to sort of go with the film wherever we can, and house it online after a point of time.
And maybe once, things get a little better, Menaka, even from IFAs, on behalf of IFA, we can screen the film at a venue and maybe have a discussion. I was actually thinking bringing back the Mohan Building
into conversation
into conversation around this film is going to be quite, and they also have documentation, if I remember, some kind of a film that they had made with all the little projects they did in the Mohan Building. Yeah, so we could do something there. Yeah, do we have any other questions?
There's one, no question, but Aditya Nigam comments on Facebook. It is a fascinating idea to look at one particular building, traces of past histories that it inhabits, and the mysterious aura that emerges around it.
Oh, that's so nice to hear.
Yeah. And so we don't seem to have any more questions, but I had just one question. I was very fascinated by the number of collaborators that have come together on this project. If any of you or both of you could just tell us something about how these collaborations happened. And such wonderful artists that have all come together. Were you all just friends, or did it happen because of this project? And what have been their experiences as well?
So Sumana, if you remember when we got the proposal, it was pretty much Mahesh, you on your journey,
Yeah.
At that point, it wasn't such a collaborative thing. It was your meditation around this building.
Yeah.
I guess maybe what's happened here.
Embarrass Mahesh a little bit.
Huh?
Sure.
I mean, I just want to say that there is this almost innocent and naive sincerity to how he pursues a project, but also summons all of these energies of collaborators. And I think that's really the reason why most people want to work with him. That's all.
That's wonderful.
I guess, I don't know. Okay. So actually what happened was, I think maybe I felt like maybe I wasn't sure what my role was. Am I an artist or am I a facilitator sort of a thing? So my idea was to sort of share with the people who worked on it, the feeling of what it was to be in the building. And then they would sort of actually do their own thing with it. And sometimes and most times it is actually surprising. So I didn't have to sort of, because like a few years back or no, oftentimes the idea is that I want to know how a project is going to sort of unfold from start to end. But here I had the opportunity to be a little bit more loose and more participative. Therefore, people could actually do their own thing. And that has actually been a very helpful experience for me. Right. So while I shot the film, and Anuj is in Delhi, for instance, and he's done the editing for it, he hasn't even seen the building once. Right. At the same time, for example, the designers who worked on the film, the book, people who designed the book, they have seen, they have taken them to the building because now they are based out of Bangalore. But at the same time, they could also explore different sort of forms, because I felt like I wasn't a designer and they knew their job, but to sort of somewhere arrive at an intersection between what this building could be about and how they could express it in their own way. So that was something that we wanted to do more. If it maybe, I think over a point, we also understood that the whole journey has been to take different artists and friends of mine to the building and to the building, or maybe see what do they bring back from this, and maybe they will go back and do they, like a friend of mine from Coimbatore said he wants to now explore maybe some sort of art deco buildings in Coimbatore, right? So I mean, I guess maybe it happened organically, I suppose.
Thank you. Thanks, Mahesh. We don't seem to have any more questions, so we could wrap up this evening. Arundhati, do you
Yeah, just to say that, thanks to the artists, thanks to this project, Project 560 actually enables us at IFA also to see the city very differently. Some of us are from the city, like here between Sumana and me. Sumana is from Bangalore, and I have made Bangalore, it's out of choice, my home over the last like 25 years. And then there are new people who come to Bangalore because they join IFA and start working here. And between these three kinds of people and our relationship with Bangalore, Project 560 gets even more personal because of our relationships, and we negotiate with the city through these projects. And I think this has been one project that has really made us ask questions about buildings, what they mean to us, the memories associated with it, but also how an artist could just lift it from the, like you said, Mahesh, from this little straitjacket of heritage, utility, repurpose kind of idea, and give it a spirit that that's really very beautiful. So thank you. Thank both of you and all your collaborators for that and for sharing it today. Just Sumana, to mention that January 19th, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is our next project showcase.
Yeah. So you want to end with that? And
yeah, please do join us. This has been a lovely wrap to the year. We've had project showcases happen through the year, and we'll come back with another set of project showcases in the new year. So in the meantime, all of you keep safe and wish you a happy festive season and a happy new year. And thank you. There's a lovely message from, I think, Mohiuddin Mirza, who is saying that this has been an excellent contribution by Mahesh, Anuj, and the IFA team. Such eventful, iconic symbols from other metros can be included. We hope more artists will be inspired by this project and will go on to work on similar projects in other cities too. For now, for IFA, this is just Bangalore, and Project 560 is only for Bangalore, but we do also know that a lot of Project 560 work has inspired artists in other cities, and we do hope that this will continue to inspire more and more people. On that note, wishing you all a very good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Good
much.
night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.